Welcome to the Taking a Breath podcast with Parker Mays.
Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of the Taking a Breath podcast. I'm Parker, and today joining me is Steph Ganowski. Steph is a men's relationship and communications coach. She started in fitness coaching, and a few years ago, she transitioned into the relationship space and has been absolutely killing it, both on social media and in one-on-one conversations. So, Steph, thanks so much for being willing to have the conversation today, and I'm excited to get into something a little bit different than what I've been typically talking about. And so building a little bit about relationships, and especially for college students, high school students, kind of what relationships look like at these early stages. So would love for you to introduce yourself, and then we'll jump in.
Yeah, cool. First of all, thanks for having me, Parker. I'm super excited. I never actually spoke to a younger crowd, and I do have a lot of younger followers, but I never did, spoke directly to them. So this is great. I can't wait to share this with them too. Yeah, so like you said, I started in fitness, and I ended up reading the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. If you've heard of that, most people have heard of it. Yeah. And it had a training program at the end of the book, which I then took and got trained in gender. I got certified in gender intelligence. And it was just understanding the difference between men and women and their biological instincts and needs and psychology and communication. And I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. I want to dive further into this. And it was like fitness was my personal passion, but I wasn't really passionate about helping other people with it. It was more just my thing. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this out and see what happens. And I do have a bachelor's in psychology. So I've been very interested in the human mind and behavior and why people do what they do and why they say what they say and what's, how do we get to the underground needs of it all, right? Without being defensive or this and that. And that intrigued me so much. So to make long story short, I was in a few, I'll say like emotionally abusive relationships with men. And there was a time when I was that girl who was like, who needs a man, this and that. And after reading this book and really just maturing through reading and trying to understand people on a deeper level, I came to the realization that, hey, like this is just my personal mindset. This isn't all men. This is based on my history and my past, and I have to overcome this and heal from it. And what better way to do that than focus on men when it comes to opening up and starting a new business? If I can understand them, then I can help myself heal, but I can also help women in the future as well and see what's going on with these guys to, understand, what is the difference? Why was I put in that situation? Why did I put up with it? And just, that's how I pretty much came to that. I also realized that most men don't have people helping them with relationships to the extent that I feel I'm doing. Like I'm very focused on communication so they can understand women in a healthy way and learn communication skills. And I can actually teach them those skills. And that's what I'm doing now. So
I love that. And I love the psychology and the mind and the brain approach to it too, with your background and what you're interested in. I think that side of it fascinates me, and I'm excited to get into that at, still a surface level today, but still be able to talk a little bit about that. I'm curious, just to kind of lay the foundation with our, audience being kind of 16 to 22-year-olds, what's your perspective on dating as a young man or woman? Do you see, have a specific age, or is it a mental thing? How mature are you? What does that look like for you in terms of age and relationships?
Yeah, I would say for age, I mean, if you feel a connection with someone, I think experience is very important. And if you are young, getting that experience, but understanding, hey, I'm going to wait until I'm around 25 to 27 to make any crazy decisions, because, the brain doesn't stop maturing until around then. It's still developing. It's still maturing. It's still developing. And it doesn't reach full development until, the age of 25 to 27, around there. So with that being the case, you want to have experience so that you can learn from those experiences, but also don't make any, rush decisions. There's no reason to rush. And, I think that so many people, and I talk to so many people who are older and tell me, oh, well, we got together when we were so young. I didn't even know what I wanted. I just felt this connection and I felt the need to just, be with them and now I regret it and I wish I could start over. And it's just the amount of times I hear that is just like, people need to slow down and they need to wait until they emotionally mature. Emotional intelligence is a thing that really does help, you have an understanding of another person. And especially when it comes to love and needs and not getting so defensive when your partner hurts you, there's so much that you can't handle at such a young age because you're not informed enough. Your brain has not developed to the point of being able to even handle that information and know what to do with it. So it's really important to grow into emotional maturity, but I think also having those experiences so that you learn as you're growing into emotional maturity and you can kind of connect the dots.
Right. And I love that perspective around emotional intelligence and maturity, because I definitely agree or see that from my perspective as a student, with other students who are like, just have no idea what is going on or what they want. So for you within that space of maturity or figuring out what I want, with age, do you think that as we're kind of going through college and getting potentially the experience of dating, that part of it is also like self-exploration? And what do you recommend for people to do to kind of figure out what do I want or what do I need in a relationship?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. And it does come with self-exploration of understanding what you personally are looking for, because everyone is different and everyone has their own priorities, right? So what I want in a partner, my top 3 things that I feel I need personally are different than your top 3 things, right? And the next person's. And that's okay. And that's important to know those things and get very specific on them so that and it makes it easier when you find the person who you're meant to be with. They will have those top 3 things. And you'll say, all right, like this solidifies my decision that this is a good compatible person for me. Let me date them. Let me explore, this relationship and see if those really are my compatibilities. And if that keeps us going in a healthy relationship. So I often tell my clients, have 3 things that you need in a partner, that you personally need. And don't feel selfish. Don't feel bad about it. It's okay. It's okay to want someone who prioritizes their health. That's one of mine. Like you don't have to feel bad for saying, oh, like I don't need someone who's healthy. That's mean, or it's not mean. It's what you prefer. Health is a top priority for me. And I need a partner who's on the same level because that would be the most compatible for my lifestyle. So like I said, don't feel bad about it. Have 3 things that you feel you need in a partner, and also have 3 things that are no way. Like no way would I even go on one date with someone if they had one of these 3 things. And, I think 3 is a good number just because it's like, you don't want to go crazy with it where it's to the point where you're just making a list that only fits one person in the universe.
Right.
But at least you're clear, and at least it gives you a good indicator of what you're looking for and what would be compatible to you and what would excite you about dating. And then you even know when you're talking to someone, if you're like, oh my God, I don't know who to go on a date with. I don't know if I should date this person. Ask yourself, do they have the 3 things, and do they not have those 3 things? And if that matches, it's like, all right, they're probably worth going on a date with, so it helps you get clear and it helps you make decisions and feel more confident in your dating process.
And with those 3 things, are they physical, emotional, communication? What should we be looking for those 3 yeses and the 3 nos?
Yeah, I think they could be, it's really just whatever's most important to you. But I think having a physical, having emotional, is great. Another one for me is emotional intelligence. If someone doesn't have, because this is what I do all day. So if someone doesn't have, somewhat of an understanding, I'm not saying they have to be at my level or study it every day, but if they don't have some level of, making communication very important and putting it on, on a high value scale, then I won't really be able to communicate well with them. So it's like, that's more of an emotional one versus the physical one. So it's just, understand just draw out. I usually tell guys the first thing is write your ideal woman list. What does she look like? What does it feel like to be around her? What is she into? What do you guys do together? How does she treat waiters and waitresses? Like we have these ways of indicating, like we have these indicators of, oh, that would make a good person to date. And it's like, write it out and get really clear. And the more clear you are, the person doesn't have to check every single box, but if they check most boxes, like I said, it like gives you that's just another way to get clear versus the 3 and the 3. So it's like, those are 2 exercises you could try.
I love that. And so what I'm really hearing is kind of this focus on priorities, like knowing for myself what I'm prioritizing. Is that that's kind of the key of starting to think through these exercises?
Yeah, totally. But I think, at the age range of 16 to 22, you really don't know yet.
Right.
And that's what's going to be more about. This age range is more about the self-exploration and understanding that maybe your 3 and 3 will change, and
Yes.
maybe your list will change in time as you grow older, or as you date people that have those 3 and don't have those 3. And you're like, I'm still not, it still didn't work for me. Like, that thing wasn't that important. You know what was more important? This. And then you start playing around and like shifting your priorities and understanding as you grow, you're going to be attracted to different types of people as you grow. And that's the whole point of not diving into a relationship so fast before your brain matures and before you really know what you want to do in life and what your values are, so it's just give it time, but also have fun with it and find what excites you most and what repels you. I think that's really important to have both.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I'm curious because a lot of the people listening or a lot of the people I'm interacting with are kind of these like busier students who are doing a lot. They want to be involved in clubs and involved in, they want to get good grades, but still have social lives. For people that are struggling with this balance already, what are some of the things that we can do to make sure our relationships are still a priority?
Mm-hmm. That's great. And I love the ambitious people. I was a young, and this is the thing that I want to warn you guys listening about, because when I was like 23, I was in the headspace of, I want to start a business and I want to make a lot of money and I want to be successful, and I don't have time for a relationship. I don't have time for a man, and I need to do this first. But, and that's a very easy mindset to fall into, especially if you're an ambitious young person. And it was like very hard to get out, and took a lot of realizations to get out of that mindset. But what a coach I started working with a coach years down the road, and he told me, he was like, Steph, I met my wife when we were in our early 20s, and we're still together. And he's like 60, almost 70 at this point, this guy.
Wow.
And he was like, and you know what? She helped me in my business. Like, why do you think it's not possible to find a partner to help you grow and help you create something so big and, energetic and amazing and exciting for your future? And like, why can't they be part of your ambition? And I was like, okay, good point. And, realizing that, I was like, wait, I don't have to choose. I can have both, and we get put in, I think a lot of ambitious young people get put in this, they put themselves in this box where it's like, no, I have to focus all my energy here, but I don't have time for that. You have time for what you really want in life and what you want to prioritize in life. You will always make time for what is a priority to you and what is most important to you. So if finding a relationship and maybe building a family is a goal of yours, don't just put it off for your career. Understand that you can find a person who will grow with you, who will make you better, who will appreciate your ambition, who will give you space when you need it. And I think that's another very important part, is the space and the boundary setting. And this is where the healthy balance comes in, especially with people who are, busy individuals, is creating boundaries with your partner where you're still prioritizing your work, your studies, your school, your jobs. Those are still a priority. She may also be, or he may also be a priority, but you're keeping your priorities in check. You're not just all of a sudden in a relationship and now it's all like, your business or your work, your studies get like fuzzy or in the haze. You don't want that to happen. So it's like, set boundaries to make sure that if there's a balance, there is an actual balance, and you're not just shifting all of your attention to your partner. Because what happens is then you start resenting your partner, and you're like, you know what, you made me leave my studies. I was doing so well in school. Now I'm not. It's because of you. But no, it's not because of the partner. It's because of how you allowed the partner to treat you and get into your life. You didn't set boundaries. You allowed her or him to take up too much of the energy when you couldn't handle it. So as long as there's communication around setting boundaries, especially during times when you're a busy student, then, and this is hard to do at a young age. It really is. This takes a lot of emotional maturity, but if you can start young and understand it, it will be amazing for you, because then you can understand, wow, I can have both. and I can prioritize both these things and I can flourish in both of them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So the idea of taking ownership, which is that idea of, by you setting your boundaries as the individual and having that clear communication, then you're able to take the ownership for, we are spending this time together because I spent this time. And then there's no made me, which is what you're talking, they made me get away from it. It's no, you own it. I set this time aside to develop the relationship. So I love that idea. And I love the idea of ownership. But one follow-up question I had was, when you're talking about boundaries, is it around time? Like how do you approach that? Do you say, here's specific time that I have set aside for you, or I'm not exactly sure how to approach that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this can be tricky in the approach because, if you word it like that, especially to a partner who cares about you, they'll be like, oh, what am I have to fit in your schedule? They can get very defensive and hurt by it. So you want to do it in a way that's still very loving and showing you care. Sometimes it's just, there are no words. It's just, you don't respond to texts right away, every time they text you. Maybe you respond once an hour. Maybe in the morning you say, hey babe, I hope you have an amazing day. Can't wait to talk to you after work later today at 7. Then see what that's doing. It's like, right. Then that person feels loved, they feel cared for, and they also are informed that you haven't forgot about them. You just are prioritizing work and you're going to reach out to them at 7 o'clock. Right. It's very clear when they get to talk to you again. And if they, but here's the thing, you have to maintain the boundaries, and that's the hardest part. So if you say that, and then this person, asks you, hey, what are you doing right now? Or how's your day? How was lunch? And then you respond, you broke the boundary. And then if they keep conversing with you, you can't get mad at them because you broke your own boundary. You allowed them to break your rule, of how they could treat you. So that's an unspoken boundary. That's kind of just like, you're not flat out saying, I'm going to set a boundary. You're just saying, hey, can't wait to talk to you again at this time, blah, blah, blah. Another way you can do it is say your partner is, it's obvious, like you're starting to get frustrated because they want to spend every day with you, or, they're interrupting your studies or your work. You would say something like, hey, I love spending time with you. I have so much fun with you. So it's starting with something that's bringing them in and making them feel cared for. And then you're saying, but I really, this test is really important to me and I really want to do well. And I know you want me to do well too. So how about we see each other on, again on Tuesday, what should we do? And then it's like, oh, how about we do this? That would be exciting. And you're kind of taking your space, but you're also setting the relationship up for something that's building anticipation, that's fun, or that's exciting, and that shows them you care and that you're thinking of them, but you're also prioritizing your own space and your studies.
I love that. And I really like that idea of either, hey, I looking forward to hanging out again on this day, or really building out some sort of anticipation and excitement, because it really, especially when we're young, right? We have, some of us have a lot of free time, others might not, but there is this idea that, hey, after school, for example, right, we get off school at 2:30 or 3 or whatever, and hey, what are we doing after school or anything like that? And so realizing that, oh, even though there is, we're out of school, there's still other things that we might have going on, and for everybody it's completely different. Schedules are so different. So thinking about that and thinking through how that's going to be perceived by the other person as well is fascinating. So I love that. You mentioned there, sometimes people really want to, text consistently or call, especially right in a younger environment, right? I don't know if you remember,
yeah,
but it's
I'm starting to remember back. I'm like, that's all I did all day.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, I want to text right back, or I want to call for 2 hours, or I want to hang out every afternoon, or, a lot of that kind of clingy or insecure stuff is associated with dating as a younger person sometimes. And so that was what I was curious about is, if you're in a relationship like that, where you feel like the other person is always asking, I hear that a lot from people. What is your kind of thoughts or feedback about that when you feel like this other person, not to sound bad, but almost feels like a burden in your own mind?
So how to respond if they're coming across kind of needy?
Exactly.
Yeah, I would say that anyone who's coming across in a desperate or needy communication style is most likely, have their insecurities and they need more validation, or they need more proof that you care about them is what they need, and that's why I say that, like, if you can, instead of, because some people will say, especially younger people will flat out say, stop being so needy, or like, and then it hurts the person, and then the person's like, what? Right. And then it's sometimes even breakups can happen right there, just because it's like, oh, she's too clingy, she's too needy, or he's too clingy or needy. Right. And I would try first to just, validate that person more. Like, ask yourself, how can I make this person feel like, that I care more? And maybe it's simply just saying, oh, I have so much fun with you, or just saying things like that more. Or I love being around you. I love when we did this last week. It was so much fun.
Right.
Or, I was thinking of you the other day. And even something that's so simple and easy to do with someone is like text them and say, hey, I can't really have a full conversation, but this reminded me of you and it made me laugh. And it's just like telling the person, all right, I can't talk to you all night and text back and forth, but I just wanted you to know I'm thinking of you. And it's still such a nice way to show that person validation and give that person reassurance, like, oh, okay, they're still there. It's kind of like it's like that sigh of relief that a lot of people are needing at that insecure stage. But I think the insecure stage also has to do with a person not knowing who they are or what they want. And that just goes back to being young and not having enough experience. So it's going to happen. And it's just, understand that the more you grow, everyone is going to mature to some extent. And the more intention you put behind maturing and improving your relationships, the best you're going to feel, when you're late 20s, 30s, and when you're ready to actually settle down. You're going to know so well, like, how to communicate and what you want. And it's going to just feel amazing. Because there's so many people, at my age and older, men in their 50s I work with who were like, I wish I met you when I was 20. Like, I have no idea any of this was a thing. And I screwed up 2 marriages because of it. And it's like, wow, so sad, it's like, yeah. So just being intrigued at a young age is so cool. Like, I love that I'm speaking to young brains because it's like, all right, now's the time to like really get interested in, like what you said, getting, understanding their side and their perspective, and not always getting defensive as we always do, especially at a young age, but especially even when you're an adult. Like, I see it all the time. People get like very defensive because we're constantly wanting to protect ourselves. And if someone says anything that puts us in a place where we have to protect ourselves, it can be like us, cursing them back, us lashing out and screaming at them, us walking away, us staying silent, avoiding it, and then resent her. And that resentment builds up and it turns to anger, and it turns to, divorce or worse things. And it's just, that happens. So it's like, I think the best thing for young people to realize is, like, when someone says something that hurts you, it says nothing about you, and it says everything to do with them and what they're dealing with inside and their own insecurities. So when someone says something that feels like it's hurting you, and that could be your girlfriend, your boyfriend, a stranger, bully at school, it's because they're hurt. Only hurt people hurt people. And I think that's really important to understand. They have an underlying need that needs to be met, and they're trying to express themselves to have their need met. That's all it is. And they're using you as a tool to get their need met. Wow. And that's what that is. So I think realizing that when people say things that bring you down or put you in a sense in a spot of wanting to react defensively or wanting to yell or get back at them, just do your best not to get back, because it's not about them attacking you.
Wow. That is a really good spot in there. I love that when someone is saying something negative or really lashing out at you, there is constructive feedback, and then there's just like negative outlash, right? So navigating between those two. One question that I had for you was around confidence in relationships. And because, I know that you've worked with this variety of age ranges, and within my audience, I know that there are, very confident people and more kind of shy or like introverted types. And so I'm curious, what role does confidence play, and how can we as individuals portray confidence without coming across as overconfident or, too shy?
Mm-hmm. I think that confidence has a lot to do with being intentional. and like knowing what you want and what types of reactions you want to get out of people, and that's like, even on dates, what I tell my clients is be intentional about how you want to make her feel. Okay. So like really get it in your head instead of because what so many guys jump to do, and I'm sure women do this too. You go on a first date and you just start, freaking out, or you meet someone for the first time, you have an interview, a job interview, right? And you're just like, all right, don't mess up, or don't do what I did last time, and don't do this. And you start yelling at yourself and actually giving yourself feedback of what not to do. When you do that, it creates a negative pattern in your brain, because all your brain is hearing are the main words. It doesn't hear the not. It hears mess up, do that again, because that's now your focus point. That's consuming your mental space. So if you say something like that, that's all your brain knows, because that's like the main thing in your brain. So it's like, all right, just do this. Like, I don't know, just do this. So your brain just goes with it because your belief is so strong and your words are so strong. So your brain knows nothing else to do in that moment rather than go with the flow of what you're saying. Your words are so important. And that's something that's especially important for young people to understand, is even joking around and saying things like, oh, I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. Do not say that. Don't ever say that, even if you're joking. And I grew up saying this because I did feel like I wasn't the smartest person. And I wasn't the smartest person in my class at all, but I had a lot of social anxiety because I didn't think I was smart. And I would always tell myself, oh, I'm so dumb. I'm so dumb. I'm so dumb. And I just always said it. And it grew into this very strong belief when I started, studying and reading 50 books a year and like teaching people things. They'd be like, you're so smart. And I was like, what? And it was like this shock of like, wait, am I? Could I be smart? And then like the more I read and the more of that feedback I got, the more I realized, wow, I can't be saying those things to me anymore. I have to change my words. And the more I started telling myself, I'm smart. I know what I'm talking about. I'm intelligent. The more I would portray those actions because they matched my words. So that's just something for young people, especially because I know that we all tend to beat ourselves up, especially at a young age. You think you don't matter as much, you decrease your value a lot. There's other kids that are doing better. So there's a lot of comparison, especially in schools. So that's important. But I think going back to the confidence aspect is just, like I said, I have my clients say before a date, be intentional about how you want the outcome to look like and how you want her to feel. So instead of those words of don't do this, don't do that, I want you to say, I'm going to do my best to listen as clearly as I can to everything she says so that I ask the best questions. Yes. Like, how awesome would a date go or a job interview go if like you had that in your head? Like, I'm going to ask the best questions back. Because then your brain is looking, your subconscious then goes in that situation and looks for ways to ask good questions. It's on the lookout for your focus point. So it's crazy because I even had my client, this was like 2 weeks ago, go on a first date with someone, or like 2 months ago, actually, at this point, because he's still dating her, to go out with a girl on a first date. And he said, it's really weird because it's during COVID. So she's coming over and I just, I'm kind of nervous about it. And I was like, all right, well, instead of focusing on the nerves, how do you want her to feel? And he's like, I want her to feel safe. And I was like, all right, so I want you to set that intention. And before she comes over that night, I want you to really just close your eyes for 2 minutes. And I want you to imagine her like smiling, looking really relaxed. Maybe she's laughing, maybe she just slouched on the couch, like just looking totally comfortable, and her saying like she feels comfortable or she feels safe. And he was like, okay. So he did that. They had the best date ever. Then after she goes home, as soon as she's on the ride home, she texts him and she said, thanks so much for the date tonight. I felt so safe. You made me feel so safe. And he was like, it's crazy. And this happened a few other times where like they said the exact word that the guy put the intention out there for. And it's really, your brain is waiting for you to give it direction. So give it the direction you want in alignment with the outcome you want. Don't tell it what you don't want, because what you focus on, you get. So focus on what you actually want, and you'll find that your physical reality will align with that.
Oh man. Okay. I love that. I love the words and the thoughts, because I strongly agree, especially for young people. We tend to get in these negative feedback loops where it's just negative builds on negative. And so definitely agree. And I love that idea. So where can people find you if they want to check out more of your content and more of what you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm mainly on Instagram at Steph Ganowski. I'm also on YouTube at Steph Ganowski. I haven't put out a video in like a year, but I'm going to jump back into that.
Cool.
Subscribers are picking up and questions are picking up. So that's like a cool place to ask questions if you guys have questions. But yeah, mostly Instagram. And then I also have a podcast, which I send out a new episode every week, and that's called What I Love About Men. So yeah, those are the three main ones where you could find me.
Awesome. Steph, I really appreciate you sharing the conversation today and sharing your thoughts, and looking forward to hopefully doing it again sometime.
Yeah, I would love to. Thanks so much, Parker. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And for anyone listening, if you're not following us at Taking a Breath Podcast, make sure to. We'll have some clips and highlights there from this episode and every week. And then if you're interested, we meet every Saturday morning on Zoom. So if you are in college or in high school and you want to connect with other students from around the world, check us out on in the link in our bio on Instagram, and you can connect there as well. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks for listening to the Taking a Breath podcast with Parker Mayes.